My name is Corey Finneran, and I am from Illinois. And that is, when most people hear Illinois, they think Chicago. So I would say that I have kind of a Chicago accent. People from Chicago may not think that, but Chicago, and which is kind of like southern Wisconsin, kind of has a certain, we do something specific with our vowels, I think, and that's what stands out to people. The name of my podcast is Ivy Envy, and it is a sports podcast. It's on the Chicago Cubs, which is a baseball team. And what comes to mind when I think of Spain? Warm weather, history. I can picture Barcelona, the Olympics. With the Olympics in Barcelona, I believe. And so that's kind of what stands out to me. Beaches, warm, kind of tan architecture. I guess that's what I think of when I think of Spain. Aprende inglés gratis con missioningles.com y inglespodcast.com.
Hello and welcome once again to Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig, episode 90. Or if you're a new listener, you're very welcome to get to know our podcast. How are you, Craig?
Very well, thank you. How are you, Reza?
I'm very, very well. We're an award-winning podcast. We won the award for Best Education Podcast in the UK Podcasters Awards of 2015. And we have plenty of experience, about 40 years of experience between the two of us. So we hope we can help you improve your English by helping you grow your grammar, vocalize your vocabulary, and perfect your pronunciation and take it all to the next level.
Fantastic. In this episode, we're speaking about how to avoid personal questions, those horrible personal questions that you sometimes answer, but you really don't want to. How can you avoid answering those? But before that, we have some feedback. Congratulations to Bea, who you know, Reza, Beatriz Asensi Gallardo, who passed her FCE exam. Well done, Bea.
Congratulations, Bea.
Fantastic. You are now an FCE girl. Well done. We've got some listener feedback from Rafael. Reza, do you want to take this? Because I think your Spanish is better than mine.
Well, let's see about that. Let's read and let's see. Oh no, I feel really nervous now. I feel on the spot. There's pressure on me to try and speak good Spanish. Ooh, here goes. It's written in Spanish, so we're going to read in Spanish. Reza, tú lo haces bastante bien, lo de pronunciar español. Sin embargo, a Craig sí que le cuesta un poco más y no acabo de entenderlo porque a veces he oído los años que lleva Craig en España y son
18 años.
This is what Rafael writes, not me, I'm just the reader. Don't shoot the messenger. He continues. Creo que alguna vez habéis dicho que lleváis desde 1998.
97. ¿Tú 98?
Yes, Craig's been here a year longer than me. Imagine. He's ancient, Craig. A veces pienso en ello y me imagino viviendo en Inglaterra tantos años y creo que hablaría inglés como un nativo. Bueno, tampoco estoy muy seguro de ello. Os pido perdón porque la mayoría de las veces os escribo en español. Pero, aunque os lo entiendo todo, no soy capaz de colocar este rollo.
How would you say colocar este rollo in English?
To get something across, to get this out, to get it across.
To explain it? Yeah.
Or to explain yourself.
Get it across.
So he says, no soy capaz de colocar este rollo en inglés. Bueno, espero que Craig no se moleste con mi comentario y si fuera así, le pido disculpas por adelantado. Un saludo afectuoso, Rafael.
Raphael, we've exchanged emails and we're still friends, and I wasn't offended in the slightest. In fact, I agree with you. And my Spanish should be a lot better than it is. And I know as a teacher I should set an example and work more on my Spanish, but I'm lazy and I don't, and I have no excuse. So I think you're absolutely right. For somebody living in a country for 18 years, I should speak with fewer mistakes and a lot better.
I think you're being a bit hard on yourself, Craig. I think your Spanish is pretty good. Can I tell the listeners a little anecdote which they I think they don't know about? Not that long ago, a few months ago, Craig was asked to give a very short interview about the podcast. Remember that?
Yeah, on the radio.
Yeah, for a local radio station in Valencia called Cadena Ser, or Radio Valencia Cadena Ser. And he had to do it over the phone and with very little warning. Like they tell you 3 or 4 minutes in advance, okay, we're going to do the interview now. And let me tell you, it's the best Spanish he's ever spoken. When it really mattered, he was word perfect. His pronunciation was great. No grammar mistakes, no vocabulary mistakes. I couldn't have done that. So when it really mattered, he produced the goods. That means he did a good job.
Thank you very much for saying that. But I know day-to-day Spanish when I'm speaking with friends, when I'm telling a story, my tenses are all over the place, and it's something I'm working on. It's work in progress. But Raphael, thanks for your comment, and let's move on. We have another piece of feedback from Pepe Calvo, who says, "Hi, Craig and Reza, how are you doing? I'm Pepe Calvo, a 51 years old self-taught English student."
Did you say years?
That's what Pepe wrote. Yeah.
Doesn't sound right.
What should it be?
Pepe, it should be a 51-year-old without any S on years. Because if you are a 51-year-old self-taught English student, 51-year-old is an adjective. So you join all the words up together with hyphens. That's guillonet. So 51-year-old. So now it's what we call a compound adjective. 2 or 3 words making an adjective. When you have a number in a compound adjective, you don't write plural S with it.
So you can say, for example, I am 51 years old, but then it's not an adjective.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you make it an adjective, is I'm a 51-year-old English student.
That's exactly it. So Craig, let's do a couple more as an example.
Okay.
Can you change these to compound adjectives? If I say, the journey lasts 3 hours.
It's a 3-hour journey.
Okay.
With 3 an hour hyphenated.
And the S disappears.
And the S disappears.
What about this one? It's a 10-kilometer trip. Put it into separate words now.
The trip is 10 kilometers.
Now you add the S because you've separated. Okay, Pepe?
So continuing with Pepe's email, I started to learn English on my own in my mid-40s. And thanks to the internet and the help from podcasts like yours, I think I'm getting it.
Thanks, Pepe.
I do too, because his English is really very, very good. From the beginning, I also started to practice English with native English speakers who are retired and live nearby. Good idea. Find some retired people in your area and practice with them. It was tough, which means difficult, but now I'm really proud to be able to follow a conversation more or less fluently. I don't spend any time studying.
Well, that's not great, to be honest, Pepe.
But he continues, nor do I do exercises and things like that. I think the key is to listen to English. The more you can, the better. And in addition, speak, read, write, and watch things in English. And he says his favorites are documentaries. and do this as much as you can. And Pepe calls it my little linguistic immersion, and I think it works. Well, it obviously does. His writing is excellent. I'm sure his speaking and listening, he says, is very, very good. So for Pepe, that obviously works.
Mm-hmm. Although, Pepe, if you had time, you would benefit a bit from a little bit of study. But if you haven't got time, don't worry. Keep doing what you're doing. I agree with you that listening is extremely important.
Finally, Pepe says, nowadays I'm listening to your podcasts, but I'm not up to date with them yet. And obviously he started from episode 1, and I'm wondering if you've already got the dulce de leche recipe. Have you? If not, it's the least I can do for you to express my gratitude. It's really easy. My mum used to make it when I was a kid. Here you are. And Pepe has very kindly sent us a link. And finally, Reza, we have our dulce de leche recipe.
Oh, Pepe, thank you. We've been waiting so long for someone's own personal recipe.
And it's strange because Pepe is from Tortosa. Where's Tortosa?
I think I've been in Tortosa for about an hour.
Close to here?
Yes, it's in La Comunidad. Is it the Comunidad Valenciana or Catalunya? It's where the two meet.
But fairly close.
Yeah, so it's right at the limit of Comunidad Valenciana and Catalunya, near where the river Ebro comes out to the sea. It's a nice part of the world.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
So I thought it was strange that the dulce de leche came from Tortosa and not from Argentina. And we could have Googled this recipe, but we were waiting and we were sure that someone would send it in. Thank you, Pepe. So, how to avoid personal questions. And avoid in Spanish is evitar. So, how do you not answer personal questions when you feel that they are not correct in a certain situation? First of all, what kind of questions and in what kind of situations could be difficult or maybe inappropriate or embarrassing? So you can fill in a form sometimes, and there are some questions on the form that you might think are inappropriate or invading your privacy, perhaps, or even embarrassing. Or when you apply for a service or a product, sometimes face-to-face or on the internet or by phone, people ask you questions, and I sometimes think, why are you asking me this question? And when you meet somebody or somebody you don't know very well would ask you a question that you think is inappropriate, or even in a job interview as well, that you may think questions are not correct in that situation. So what I'd like to do, I've got some expressions here, Reza, and some of these expressions are actually asking a personal question, so ways of asking a question. And some of these expressions are responding to a personal question. So how do you answer or deflect the question?
Ooh, deflect, that's a good word.
How do you say deflect in Spanish? So to deflect, I think, is desviar in Spanish. So you're not answering the question, you're kind of deflecting it and going around it, avoiding it. So if I read these expressions, Reza, could you tell me if you think they are asking a personal question or responding to a personal question? Tell me what you think. Ready? Mm-hmm. That's got nothing to do with you.
That's responding to a question.
Why do you ask?
That's also responding. And if you do that, you're probably Gallego. Have you heard about the stereotype of Gallegos? Now, if you're a South American listener, in Spain, when people say Gallego, they mean someone from Galicia. In South America, sometimes when you say Gallego, you mean anyone from Spain. But you see, it's not the same.
I didn't know that.
So when we say Gallego in Spain here, we mean someone from Galicia. And one of the stereotypical qualities of a Gallego is never to give you a straight answer. And so the stereotype in jokes is you ask a gallego a question, he says, why do you ask that question? Can I ask you the same question? Or something like that. But the classic answer is, why do you ask?
So you're returning, you're throwing back the question to the other person immediately. Why do you ask? Your intonation was interesting. You went very high. Why do you ask? Why do you ask? Why do you ask? Next one. I know this is a bit personal, but...
Well, that sounds like you're about to ask a question.
Exactly.
And you're kind of preparing the person who's going to answer the question by saying that you realize that it's personal, but you're going to ask it anyway.
Right. Absolutely. Next one. Can I ask you a personal question?
Obviously, that's asking a question.
And my voice is dropping at the end. Can I ask you a personal question? Next one. That's rather a personal question.
That's a response to a personal question.
Again, notice the intonation. That's rather a personal question. I hope you don't mind me asking, but...
That's asking, obviously.
I'm afraid that's none of your business.
That's a response. In Spanish, what would that be? I'm afraid that's none of your business.
Me temo que no tiene nada que ver contigo.
Yeah. Contigo o con usted. If
Con
you're being
usted.
polite, it depends.
I'm afraid that's none of your business. And the I'm afraid at the beginning makes it a bit softer, makes the deflection a bit more polite. You can find all of these expressions on our show notes at inglespodcast.com/90. Let's continue. I'd rather not answer that, if you don't mind.
Well, that's a response, but it's a response saying that you're not going to give a proper response.
And it's quite polite, isn't it? Because you have I would, I'd, I would, I'd, the contraction. I'd rather not answer that.
Which means I'd prefer not.
I'd prefer not to, yeah. I'd rather not answer that, which is fine by itself. I'd rather not answer that. Or, the longer version, I'd rather not answer that, if you don't mind. Si no te importa. Next. I know this is a bit nosy, but...
That's to ask a question.
And what's nosy?
Well, if you're nosy, you're sticking your nose in someone's business. In other words, you're entrometido. Or the colloquial word, expression, meter los narices. To be nosy is meter las narices.
Yeah. Or to be indiscreto, indiscreta. Next one. Mind your own business.
Well, that's a response, and it's a bit stronger than the previous one with the word business. Remember you said, I'm afraid that's none of your business. Mm-hmm. That's a polite way of saying, don't ask me that. But if you say just mind your own business, you're showing annoyance. You really didn't like being asked that question.
But you could say it in kind of a jokey kind of way.
Of course, yeah.
Mind your own business.
Right.
Mind your own business. That's nothing to do with you. Next one. I don't mean to pry, but... That's P-R-Y. I don't mean to pry, but...
But, and then you ask a question.
And then you ask a question. Exactly.
Because to pry is to get into areas which are a bit personal or delicate, right?
Yeah. Entrometerse. I'm sorry to say I'm not prepared to answer that.
That's a response.
Mm-hmm. No comment.
I'm sure many listeners know that that's a response.
Yeah.
If they've ever watched politics on TV or listened to it on the radio in English, they will have heard that. Anytime someone's asked an awkward question, they've been caught doing something they shouldn't, but they don't want to implicate themselves, they say, no comment. Better for me not to say anything. No comment.
Did you accept that 400,000 euros for your campaign fund?
No comment.
Oh, no comment. Next one. I don't wish to comment on that, or I don't want to comment on that.
That's responding.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask.
That's a question. A very polite way of preparing the question.
Would it bother you if I asked? Would it bother, molestar? Would it bother you if I asked?
That's another nice polite way to ask the question.
I'll understand if you don't want to answer, or I'll understand if you don't wish to answer, but...
And then you ask a question.
Yeah. I'd rather you ask me something else.
That's a response.
Forgive me for asking, but...
Question.
Mm-hmm. If it's not too personal...
Question.
Let's change the topic, shall we?
Response.
You've got some nerve asking that.
That's a strong response to show you're annoyed. It's something that you shouldn't have been asked.
How would you translate it? You've got some nerve asking that. Que cara.
Que cara preguntar eso. Tiene mucha cara preguntarme eso.
That's for me to know and you to find out.
That's a response, which I like. That one's often used in a joke way. Like, es asunto mío, but in the sense of, oh, wouldn't you like to know? You'd like to know, wouldn't you? But I'm not going to tell you. For example, if I wanted another dulce de leche recipe, and someone had a really good one, like Pepe, and they said, oh yeah, but I'm not telling you. Oh no, it's a family secret. Wouldn't you like to know? That's for me to know and you to find out. In other words, I'm not telling you, in a playful way.
Or if you're trying to pick up somebody, ligar, maybe at work or at a party, and say, do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? Well, that's for me to know and you to find out, is a playful way to continue the conversation. Let's go back to the beginning and practice these. I'd like you to repeat them after me, and then Reza and I will practice them in a conversation. So just listen and repeat. Try to copy the intonation. Why do you ask? That's got nothing to do with you. I know this is a bit personal, but... Can I ask you a personal question? That's rather a personal question. I hope you don't mind me asking, but... I'm afraid that's none of your business. I'd rather not answer that if you don't mind. I know this is a bit nosy, but... Mind your own business. I don't mean to pry, but... I'm sorry to say I'm not prepared to answer that. No comment. I don't wish to comment on that. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask... Would it bother you if I asked... I'll understand if you don't want to answer, but... I'd rather you ask me something else. Forgive me for asking, but... If it's not too personal... Let's change the topic, shall we? You've got some nerve asking that. That's for me to know and for you to find out. Okay, Reza, let's practice some of these. So I'd like to ask you some personal, perhaps awkward questions, and you can choose to deflect them or answer them as you wish, and then ask me a question and I'll answer or not, and we'll do it alternately, okay? So I'll start. Reza, I know this is a bit nosy, but how much money do you earn?
Let's change the topic, shall we?
Okay.
From podcasts, 0.
Your turn.
Craig, forgive me for asking, but are you married?
I'd rather not answer that if you don't mind.
That's the type of thing you might be asked at a job interview, right?
Yes, and I was going to talk about that at the end, but since you've mentioned it, do you think, I mean, are women asked those kind of questions in an interview? Because for an employer, maybe they'd want to know if the woman is about to get married, maybe have a family, start a family, have a baby. Ooh. So maybe that question...
Baby.
Well, yeah, if they have a baby, then
you've set off an alarm bells
because then
ringing.
There's maternity leave, so the employer has to find somebody else to... So maybe that question isn't a fair question in an interview, but it could be asked. Now, what do you think?
But it can't. That's the thing. I'm not sure about if people are asking people if they're married or not. I think you can ask men or women if they're married in a job interview, but... in the European Union anyway, I would imagine in most countries, certainly in Britain, it's illegal
really
to ask a woman if she's pregnant.
So you can't ask her, are you planning to have a family in the near future?
Yeah. For a job interview. You can ask someone in another situation, but it is illegal to ask a woman if she's pregnant at a job interview. More than just personal, you could get into trouble with the law.
Interesting. Reza, I don't mean to pry, but how much do you weigh?
Why do you ask, Craig?
I'm just curious. Wanted to compare our weights.
Well, perhaps we should move on to another topic.
Yes.
Craig, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how much rent do you pay for your flat?
Why do you ask?
Well, you see, I'm thinking of renting a place in this area myself.
Ah, in that case, we don't pay rent, we pay a mortgage. Haha. Reza, I hope you don't mind me asking, but have you ever taken drugs?
No comment. This is a podcast after all. I don't want to face legal difficulties. I rather feel like a politician. Anything I've ever done in my life, can I assure listeners, as a famous leader once said, anything in my life I never inhaled. That's all I want to say. I never inhaled anything.
Forgive me for asking, but how much did you pay for that shirt?
Craig, let's change the topic, shall we? Because if I tell you it comes from a well-known cheap clothes store in the UK, it's best if we change the topic.
It's actually very nice. I quite like it.
Craig, how old are you?
Let's change the topic, shall we?
Now that's a curious one. I'd like to talk about that one because can you ask people how old they are? Well, certainly at a job interview and things like that.
Somebody asked me yesterday.
There you go. Who was it?
It is a guy who I'm working with to lose weight at the moment. It's kind of like a friend of mine from my local gym who's helping me to do more exercise. And we were talking about diet and lifestyle and exercise routines. He said, "How old are you?" And I told him.
Oh, you did give him a straight answer.
Absolutely, because it doesn't bother me.
And in that case, it was relevant that he asked you because weight and age, they're connected, right?
Yeah, and it's something that maybe he'd want to know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about asking a woman how old she is? I was brought up not
to. Taboo.
Maybe Craig and I are a bit old school. La vieja escuela.
Old-fashioned.
But I was told you absolutely cannot ask a woman her age directly. You can ask a girl, that's different, but you can't ask a woman her age.
And if she volunteers, if she tells you her age, you must always say, "No, but you look so much younger."
Well, what if they asked you to guess their age? Well, first of all, you're now in deep trouble.
That's a dangerous game. Rezo, I know this is a bit nosy, but who did you vote for in the last election?
I'd rather not answer that, if you don't mind. Craig, do you fancy anybody?
Oh, yes, I fancy lots of ladies. I fancy AIRC90, the actress. I fancy her very much.
Aha. So we could say that you have a crush on her.
I have a deep crush. I have a very big crush on AIRC90. What does crush mean?
Isn't it encapricharse con alguien?
That's right.
You fancy them.
I fancy her. Yes.
Now, Craig's answer, he answered me quite happily because he was talking about a film star. And let's be honest, the chance of us getting to know a film star are quite remote. It'd be different if you were talking about people in your everyday life. In that case, you might well say, none of your business.
Reza, I know this is a bit personal, but how many people have you slept with?
Oh, Craig, how long have we got in this podcast? No, that is a joke. I am joking. Que no voy en serio. Craig, I'd rather not answer that if you don't mind.
I don't blame you. It's actually sometimes if I've met a girl or when I was younger and went out to a pub and my friends saw me leave with a girl, they'd ask me the next day, did you sleep with her? Did you sleep? Did you have sex? Which I don't want to answer. So, of course, you'd say, I'd rather not answer that. Or mind your own business. If it was a friend, I'd be informal. Mind your own business. Nothing to do with you.
I would never answer that question to anybody.
Me neither. It's very indiscreet.
Craig, you make a very good hummus, may I say?
Thank you very much.
Craig's homemade hummus is very good. How do you make your hummus so tasty? What's your secret recipe?
Garlic and lemon juice. That's not a personal question.
I put it down as a kind of fun one because some people do get very protective of their recipes. You know, recipes which really impress people, which have been handed down in families for generations. And I've asked about secret ingredients, and people have refused to tell me. They've said, well, I'll tell you most of the ingredients, but there's like a secret ingredient, which I'm not gonna tell you.
Okay, fair enough. Reza, I know I don't want to pry, but what size trousers do you take? What size are you?
Craig, I've no problem answering that one honestly, which is I don't know.
How do you buy clothes?
I keep changing in it. I'm one of these people who in every shop I seem to be a different size.
You just buy a big size and a belt and just...
Well, I try them on. Now, Craig asked me, and, I don't really care.
It's a sensitive question for a lady.
Again, I was going to say, like, the age one, I wouldn't ask a lady that. Never. And by the way, I wouldn't even understand her answer, even if she told me, because I don't know how lady sizes work. But I just wouldn't ask her in the first place.
Before we continue with the podcast, we'd like to speak about something we like. Our wonderful sponsor, italki. However, this episode we have one of our listeners, Mamin, hi Mamin, who kindly sent me a voice message telling me about her experience with our sponsor, italki. So, here's Mamin to tell you what she thought of italki.
Hi guys, this is Mamen. How are you doing? I only speak with you because I had a class last night with an English teacher from Italki, and I think it was amazing, and I think I want to share with you because I know it's your sponsor, so my teacher was very funny and we were talking about our things only for half an hour, but I think it's enough to see if there is something in common or something like that. And maybe I check another teacher, but just in case, I don't know. I think I'm going to continue with my classes, and it's a good experience. And thank you for all. Big hug, kisses, bye.
Thank you, Mamin. That was very kind of you to send that in. Reza and I both agree that italki is a wonderful service. And if you are looking for an online teacher, or you'd just like to sign up free and practice your English, we would like you to go to inglespodcast.com/italki, ITALKI, where you'll find a link to their website and you can sign up for their service. And if you do want a teacher, you will get 100 italki credits free when you pay for your first teacher if you sign up with us at inglespodcast.com/italki. italki. And we want to say thank you to italki for sponsoring Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig. Reza, are there any questions you personally don't like answering? For example, it doesn't bother you to answer questions about your clothes, recipes, those kind of things. But in some situations, for example, in a social situation at a party where you've met somebody, are there any questions that you deflect and refuse to answer directly?
I don't like being asked questions about money. How much money I earn, or if I have any savings in the bank, etc.
What about how much things cost? Because my dad's always asking me when I buy something new, how much was it? How much did you pay for it? Does that bother you?
It depends what it is. If it's a personal kind of item, then yes. For example, clothes. I consider clothes quite personal, so I don't really like being asked how much clothes cost.
Mm-hmm. So if someone said, that's a nice shirt, how much did you pay for it? You'd say, why'd you ask?
Yeah. And that's weird because it seems that women are not so sensitive about that one. I've often heard women ask each other how much things cost.
That's true.
But strangely, I don't really like being asked that. Probably because the answer is always going to be a very low figure in my case, because I don't spend a lot on clothes. That could be it, as Craig has probably observed over the years. What about you? Is there any pet hate, any idiosyncratic dislike that you don't like being answered?
It annoys me. It bothers me when I get asked questions out of politeness, when the people don't really care. And I know that sometimes you have to make small talk, and to make conversation, you ask a question that really you're not interested in. But when people make it obvious that they don't care, that they're just asking out of politeness, that irritates me a bit. So I sometimes give a silly answer to sort of wake them up and make them notice that they've asked a question without really wanting to know the answer. And also questions by salespeople in shops, or sometimes on the phone.
They're very annoying, aren't they?
I don't like giving my mobile phone if I don't have to. So I give my landline phone at home. I don't mind that has an answer machine service. So my mobile phone is something that I like to keep for important things, emergencies, and friends. And I don't like companies having my mobile phone. And when they ask me for the mobile phone, then I don't give it. I say, why do you need my mobile phone? I'd rather not give that information. That annoys me.
I used to be in the past a lot more tolerant of salespeople calling and asking me questions. They call it cold calling, don't they?
Yeah, when they call you without knowing you.
No, cold calling. And quite often at the beginning, they convince you that it's all for your own good and you really should answer, because they might be genuinely from your telephone company or internet company or something like that, and they can prove that they are. But the main reason they're phoning is to get information from you. Why? Because they sell that information online, and it's perfectly legal. And so now I'm very, very intolerant of it. I used to get into conversation of 5 minutes to realize too late that I'm giving away lots of information and they're giving me nothing in return. They're wasting my time. Why? They already get money from me from my phone bill or because I have a bank account with them. So whenever they say, oh, we'd just like to ask you a few questions, I immediately say, who did you want to speak to? It's like, oh, to you. Yeah. What's my name? If they don't know my name, I hang up immediately.
I answer in English if they're phoning in Spanish.
Oh, English or Spanish?
From Telefonica or from a company trying to sell me something, I'll just answer in English and say, hello, hi, do you speak English? And it's usually no, and then they put the phone down.
Yeah. Sometimes they know your name, sometimes they don't. If they don't even know your name, is it really an important call? No. I hang up. Cuelgo.
Another situation of questions from my family that I deflect or avoid, because I find with my family that sometimes it's better to be vague about some things. Vague means vago or vaga or impreciso. So I usually don't give a lot of information sometimes, and I deflect the questions.
I'm sure you're not
by
the only
saying
one.
I can't remember. Oh, I it's I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yes.
I'll let you know. Those kind of answers.
There's that classic question, the big question, which mothers and fathers love to ask their kids. Have you got a boyfriend or girlfriend? Are you seeing anyone?
That's none of your
Are you
business.
going out with anyone? I'm always as vague as I possibly can be. It's never a good idea to give a straight answer to that. Never good. Neither yes or no say, well, I might be. That's for me to know and you to find out. I prefer to say to that.
Okay, and now it's your turn to practice your English. We want you to tell us about a time when you were asked a personal or awkward or uncomfortable question. You can send us a voice message and tell us what you think. Go to speakpipe.com. That's SPEAKPIPE, speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. You have 90 seconds to tell us about a time when you had a personal question asked. How did you answer? Or if you prefer, you can send us an email with a comment or question. Send it to me, Craig, at inglespodcast.com.
Or me, Reza, at belfastreza@gmail.com.
Thank you very much for listening and for giving us your time. And on next week's episode, we have a special podcast for you speaking about the past perfect tense. That's past perfect simple and continuous. And we have a special guest, Mike Harding, who is a wonderful person, good friend of ours, and a published author.
So, until then, it's goodbye from Craig.
And it's goodbye from him. Goodbye. The music in this podcast is from Pitts. The track is called See You Later.